Hello and welcome. Welcome to Living and Loving Each Day, Bridging Barriers. So, my name is Susan Jansen. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And my podcast focuses on inspiring people, and specifically, I talk a lot because of my personal experience about supporting parents and caregivers and service providers of children and adults with adaptive needs. And I just want to aim and to bridge those barriers that they face. But you know what? We all face barriers every day. So my focus is large and grand. I think there's a lot of people, great people I talk to about that. So I'm excited to introduce my guest today. Right now, Bruce Graham is my guest. And for over 35 years, Bruce has been a private detective. My daughter was a PI, so I know she used to bore. I'll tell you the stories about that after I introduce you. So he's always had a deep passion for helping people and leading personal transformation, and has coached over 300 clients for more than 20 years. So his devotion to helping people lead him to earn a master's degree in counseling and become a relationship coach. And he now uses his investigative skills, and I understand what that's all about, to rebuild loving relationships. So where he once sought to find people who were going wrong, he now discovers how people can make things right. We can always switch it around. So nice, Bruce Graham. I was looking at your last name, not your first. To Thank you for joining us today. So tell me a little bit more. I want to hear more about what you're doing and how you changed it from PI to building people's relationships.
Well, thanks. And thanks for having me as your guest, Susan. I love your topic because I currently am coaching a woman who defined herself initially as the mother of a special needs child. She's a child with Down syndrome. And as we got to know each other more, I'm like, no, you are a hero. You are a superwoman. She's been raising her daughter alone since her husband died about 10 years ago. Yeah. So she has so much to offer for anybody. So how I made the transition was I actually, before or simultaneously with becoming a private detective, I was in graduate school and I was getting a master's in social work and I was doing clinical counseling. And that was my passion, was really to touch people. And as an investigator over the years, even though it pays well, I would get requests for surveillance. And it always made me sad because it's the end of a love relationship, typically, or parental surveillance, and it's because somebody's drinking or somebody not supposed to have custody of the kids when they're doing it. It's always some sad event. And I got a call one morning from a fella, and he said, "You don't know me, but you know my brother. He swears by you." And I'm like, okay. Then I do. I've been in many courses in a transformational program with his brother, and I love his brother. And, so he says, "I think my wife is having an affair." Well, Illinois now is a no fault state. So you don't need to prove, any causality for getting divorced. So I told him, keep your money. You could just get divorced because you have a difference of opinion. He says, "Well, in all honesty, I love my wife, you know, and I love my kids. We got 3 kids, and the oldest is autistic. And
Oh,
he's a fireman." He says, "We never get a full night's sleep because at midnight he tends to wake up. He turns on all the TVs, he's blaring them, and he's banging pots and pans. But I still love my son. I want, him to be okay. I want my wife to be okay. I want my other kids to be okay." I said, "Well, then you need counseling." He says, "We tried it with 2 different people, it doesn't work." But because we'd come from this transformational program, I asked him, did any of the therapists, did they have any background in transformation? Because our transformation is, coming from nothing, you could create what you want. And he said, "No, they didn't." I said, "Well, let me get you the names of a couple of people I know." He said, wait, my brother says you used to be a psychotherapist." I said, "I haven't done it for 20 years. He says, "But my brother says you could do anything."
oh, nice, nice.
Yeah. So now I'm intrigued because he's a graduate of this program. That program has a foundation of integrity. And doesn't mean that we're not human beings, we're not going to screw up, but we take responsibility. So I said, "Look, if you tell your wife what you know, and if she wants to go into counseling, I'll work with you guys." And he called me the next morning, he was very excited. He says, "She wants to work with you." So I thought, okay. So I called a graduate school friend. I rented her office and I met with them. And it was supposed to be for 6 sessions. And the first 4 sessions were fine. And the fifth time, there's arguing, very loud arguing in the waiting area. And I come out and now they see me and they get like a little, shy and they start to calm down. And so I'm inviting them into the office. I said, no, no, you're doing fine. What I'd like you to do this time, and it's going to sound weird, but put your hands together and get back into that conversation. Well, they put their hands together and they look at me and I said, yeah, yeah, please, resume what you were talking about. So they started getting into it and with less passion. It wasn't so hot and heavy anymore.
Yeah.
You guys are doing great. What I would like you to do now is drop your hands and go into a full body embrace. They say, you serious? Yeah. I said, humor me, you know. Well, they got into and then they were laughing, you know. And I said, do you know that you're two different people? You're always going to have a difference of opinion just because you're different people. But you see where you end up, you're in a full body embrace. And you were a short time ago very upset with each other. You see what's possible at any given moment. Your homework is shorten the time between when the fight begins and when you end up in the loving embrace. And that was 17 years ago, and they're still married.
Oh, good for you. That's a great testimony.
I love those. I mean, I really love those. So that's what had me, and I didn't come up with that. There's a woman, Virginia Satir, wrote a book on, structural psychotherapy and stuff like that. So that was from my graduate program. It just came back to me. But it works so well. And I know even in my own relationship, we could be upset with each other, but the minute we embrace, so it's really who's going to be the first one to give up their upset to take a stab at returning to that loving experience. So, and I've seen with many of my clients, just give each other a hug, you know?
That's that power and control issue though, that sometimes people don't want to give in because they feel like they're giving in to something and they don't want to do this. So then that's a now we got to sit down and talk this through. Like who,
Right.
why, like why are you so strong in your feelings? Yeah, that's tougher.
Well, we never even really get into the why. It's okay, we got it. This is where you're at now. What are you committed to? What
Right.
do you want to have happen? And again, going back to my graduate program, wonderful book. It's called Do I Have to Give Up Me to Be Loved by You?
Mm.
And it was written by a husband and wife team of psychologists. Years later, I found out that they did end up in divorce, but I
Oh,
had been coming out of my first divorce when I read that book. And I was like, oh my God, I needed that book. Every time I'm trying to take care of my wife, I'm not doing enough by her definition. And I'm feeling like I'm probably doing too much because I'm giving up me. And I know that I've heard over and over again, especially from women who are taking care of the kids, I lost myself in our relationship. And I know it's easy to do.
yeah.
Part of my graduate school was I worked at a mother toddler drop-in center. And I remember one mother, we're in Chicago, she's putting on a snowsuit on her newborn, and she has a toddler who's in his snowsuit, and he's pulling at her leg, and he's tired. He says, I want to go to McDonald's. I want to go to McDonald's.
Mm.
And she says, we're going to McDonald's. We're going to go to McDonald's. And he keeps up. We're going to go. I want to go to McDonald's. And I looked at her. I said, how do you do that? She said, not my husband. My husband has no idea what it's like to be home with 2 kids. And this is a bright, college educated woman. So it was like being hit by lightning, like the appreciation for women
Mhm.
who really are bright people. And yet, all day long with a toddler or newborn or something, you don't have an opportunity to exercise what you know.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, bless you guys.
Yeah, it's true. And my daughter with at 8 weeks old, my granddaughter had near SIDS. So she didn't die, but she was revived. But the lack of oxygen to the brain, occipital lobe and parietal lobe, she has cerebral palsy and cortical vision impairment. So, but now she's 12. I mean, and she's so funny and she's just great, but she doesn't see us. She sees colors and light, but she doesn't see our faces. But she's just really funny and but I know how much tension it does produce in a relationship. And so it's makes it, I understand when people do, a lot of parents I know separate when they have a special needs child.
Right.
So for
I had a sister in the house. My older sister went to school for emotionally disturbed kids, so there was always, is this new treatment working? Is this new psychotherapist working? And always with big hope. And it never really materialized. So there was a lot of frustration and sadness, you know.
it's tough. I was a special needs teacher as well for 6 years, and I remember I had a secondary in my education. My husband's a psychologist as well. But in my special ed training, I remember going to my first classroom, and the student was kind of banging his head on the locker door, and I just remember thinking, okay. And the biggest thing I learned, and I took away from, because all my kids were the older, like 11 grade 11, 12, 10, 11, 12 kids, 16, 17, 18. And the biggest thing that I learned was you just accept them as they are and love them where they're at, and they know it when you have that respect for them, and they know that when you like them, and it just, I don't know, it was a really good match for me. I really enjoyed teaching them with, and no
Beautiful.
real, you have to have some expectations and help them grow. However, you don't blast them if they don't. It's like they're doing their best. So
Yes. Yes. My first internship was in a place called Thresholds, which was aftercare, psychosocial aftercare.
yeah.
And so all the kids, well, it was the young adults, they came out of there and they're all on psychotropic medications and things like that. And I had one young lady who would argue with me about everything. And when the school year was up, she gave me those beautiful notes saying, thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for not quitting on me and stuff like that. So, yeah, they really do know who cares about them.
Oh, so true. I was thinking about you when I was introducing you as the PI too. Do you miss that role? Do you miss that? No, no.
No, no, I get calls still, and I am still a licensed private detective. I have very good friends in the industry, and I refer out to the person I know who specializes in what the call's about.
Okay. Yeah. My daughter did that for a while. And when I noticed one of my purses was missing, and then when she put it back, there's a big hole in the bottom of it. She had put the camera in the purse with a hole and black tape over it so she could wear her purse and walk around and tape people. But she wasn't talking like you. She wasn't doing relationships. She was doing workman's compensation stuff. So people were saying that they couldn't work, but yet they were on a scaffold painting a wall, that kind of stuff. So she
Right.
would, but she has great stories. There were some really great stories.
Well, I remember one when I had a woman who was supposed to be getting a hip replacement surgery done soon, and yet she was a dancer in a production of Gilligan's Island, which had like stomping. And I had a camera bag, and again, we had a hole cut out and stuff like that. So, what do you do with people like that? But her stage name was similar to her real name, but she made her stage name Asian, and she was really Hungarian. So she thought nobody was going to see.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's the whole point of why that was such an important role and job, because now you're catching those people who are not honest, and they're trying to get away with something. So,
Right, right.
but yeah, and I'm one really fast one where she was saying, my daughter was saying that she'd go to, I think it was Tim Hortons, and the lady was in a car in front of her, and she would order all this food and then go and sit in the parking lot and just like eat at all this food, and then go back through the drive-through again and then get more food and come back. And she was just actually sitting in the parking lot eating for like 4.5 hours a day. So she, so yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are pretty strange, do weird
Yeah,
things.
I had one of my investigators, he was out surveilling a fellow who was supposed to be going blind because he worked in a chemical shop, and the fumes were having him go blind. And it was a very rural area. He had to set up in a church parking lot about 2 football fields away from this house where the guy lived, and it was the fall. So the guy comes out, and there's a German Shepherd pretty far away from him, and he starts picking up apples. He's throwing them at the German Shepherd, and then he comes walking across this big field and looks at my employee's car, and he's peering into the glass, and then he sees my employee, and there's like the surprise. He starts running, and going, he's the one that was going blind. So he wasn't going blind.
No, no. Well, now you're in a really great position where you can help people untruth and find the passion that they may have lost in their relationship. So that is great. Anything coming up for you? Any books coming out or anything special that you wanted to share?
My website's supposed to be coming out. I spoke with my web developer yesterday. I'm going to speak again with him tomorrow. And I'm told that either this week or next week, and I love the name of my website. It's called findagreatmate.com.
Find a
And
great
I work,
That's yeah.
yeah, I work with both singles to help them find the love of their life and couples to live a life that they love. So wonderful books that were my textbooks as I was going through the training program. For singles, it's called Conscious Dating, about being the chooser
Yeah.
in your love life. And the other one's Radical Marriage, but not radical like a bad thing, radical like going from good to great. And I love my education. I love these books. I would encourage anybody. Um, I have a free 30-minute consultation. If anybody has anything they want to talk about, could be about dating, could be about relationship. And it's Bruce at findagreatmate.com. And I just would love to talk with whoever in your audience would like a little bit of help.
Sounds great. Oh, thank you so much. Well, thank you for being here today, Bruce. This is great to get to know you. And I'll make sure to put that for that free gift. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes and with your website too. You'll have to. We'll be in touch so I know exactly what that is as well. What is your website again? I'm sorry.
It's findagreatmate.com.
Findagreatmate.com. I forgot it already. There you go. I have to do a course on memory work. So
Very
everybody,
well.
thank you so much for joining us here today. It's been a wonderful, Bruce Graham has been a wonderful guest, and I hope that you found some insight and watch the show notes for his free gift. And go to suejansen.ca. That's my website up in Canada here. And maybe we can connect there. So just reach out and subscribe. And if you have any questions, let's carry on the conversation there. So again, Bruce, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you too, Sue. It was wonderful.
Bye.